This is Silph Radio. I'm Nathan K, but most people just call me the Pokemon Professor. And what's your name?
Hey there, it's Briana Joy. Guess who's back in New York?
Right, so your name is Briana Joy. Are you a boy or a girl?
I think I'm a girl.
That's right, we are talking today about Professor Oak. This was an episode that you suggested over a year ago, almost 2 years ago probably.
I know, it feels like forever. We actually planned this before the Christmas episode.
I think even farther back than that. He's such a big character, we're going to need to do a little bit more preparation. So I think we just kept putting it off. And now we're finally here.
I know, it's crazy.
So, Briana, welcome back to New York.
Thank you.
Only temporarily, but hopefully people will still hear from you on the show more going forward.
Yes, definitely. We are going to make it work. We're going to get me recording from Florida, and I will tell you all about the fun weather we have there and how hot it is, and how you are fortunate to be in colder climates.
Colder's not quite the word.
Yeah. All jokes aside, though, I really do love Florida. You should come visit.
Yeah, we talked extensively about this an episode or two ago, so we're not going to get too deep into it, but you're down there working for Disney World, and I can see in front of me, you, unlike me, you have a smartphone. You're not so stubborn that you're still living in the Stone Age, and I have to imagine you're playing Pokemon Go.
Of course.
Disney's got to be a really cool place to go.
Disney is absolutely loaded with Pokestops. I'm sure you guys have seen online. And, you know, with thousands of people coming in every day, there's a ton of lures up, too, and it is so much fun. Magikarps are the most common in Magic Kingdom for some reason.
Oh, okay.
It's really interesting comparing what we find up here, up in New York, compared to Florida. There's a lot more Staryus in Florida, I've noticed.
Wow, really? I was going to ask, like, if there's any consideration
like
given to like what is found where.
Well, there's a few places I've been to hunting. I went to Kissimmee Lakefront Park with some friends, and I love this game because who else would be in the park right now but a bunch of 20-something Pokemon trainers in the middle of the night catching Pokemon. It was incredible. I came up and there was a bunch of people. They were selling shirts and there was an ice cream truck and we were just all chilling, catching Pokemon.
It's such a cool idea to finally give it that. If you travel, this has got to be such a cool game. To finally give it that, going out there to find the beautiful, majestic, rare creatures and stuff.
Exactly. And funny thing, when I came here, I had only found one Clefairy in Florida, but they're everywhere up here.
That's interesting. Maybe because of the mountains?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's interesting It's interesting how the game developers kind of decided, like, oh, well, which Pokemon would go where. I remember having discussions with some friends, like, hey, I wonder what Pokemon they would put here versus there.
So in Disney World, do you find well, I guess there is a lion Pokemon, but not in the original 150. I was trying to think like maybe lion Pokemon in the Lion King section, and like, is there any type of, like ghosts at Haunted Mansion or anything?
Fun story. I think I showed you this. I caught a Venomoth at Haunted Mansion, and its CP was 666.
Bullshit.
I'm not kidding.
That's creepy. I would release it immediately.
No, I'm like, okay.
You can have this, Professor Birch.
Like you would expect to find, I don't know, like a Haunter or some shit at Haunted Mansion. No, it's a Venomoth with 666 as the CP. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm gonna keep this one.
Venomoths make sense to see at Haunted Mansion. They were in the mansion in the Koga episode.
Yep, that's true. Dratinis are all over Splash Mountain. All over.
Okay. That's awesome.
It took me forever to catch them, and I finally fucking did, but they're always over by Splash Mountain. I find a lot of slowpokes in the circus area. I've heard there's a lot of Tauros up here in North America, though. I think my goal, once we can finally trade, I'm just going to catch a shit ton of them while I'm here and then just trade them away when I go back, because you can only get those in North America.
That's what's awesome about Pokemon Go.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what Pokemon is about. To me, it's not so much about battling as it is finding them, personalizing your team, trading with friends, making it about going out to find them and the beauty and the journey, interacting, trading them with your friends and stuff. That's awesome. And as much as I do act a little negative towards Pokemon Go, I can't play it. And I'm a little like, Sometimes I'm a little annoyed that it's like, you know what? I've been trying to tell you people that Pokemon wasn't just some stupid cartoon show, and that it was actually kind of cool if you just looked at the game and how you know, and I'm like, but Ash isn't the main character of Pokemon. He's just the show. And people are like, I don't get it. And I'm like, because in Pokemon, it's about you. It's about you going out there and collecting Pokemon. And they're like, I don't get it. But you play a character in the game too, don't you? And I'm like, yeah, but no, it's the idea is that you have this idea that you are a Pokemon trainer, and they're like, I don't get it. And that's what it took, was an app game. It took a shitty app game for your phone, not to insult it, but it's not the greatest game. And it's kind of bugs me that I'm like, no, it's really cool, and nobody would listen to me. But now that it's on their smartphone, there's like fucking people 10 years older than me. I'm 31. There's like people 10 years older than me. They're like, oh, this is my favorite now. And it's like, you wouldn't even consider that Pokemon might be cool.
But you know what? Nathan, you and I liked Pokemon before it was cool, as did all of our wonderful listeners. So, hey, but one thing I must say, Pokemon Go has brought people together, and
I'm happy. I'm happy that more people like Pokemon Go.
I've heard so many wonderful stories of people with like mental illnesses, like autism. My brother has autism, and you know, people like them, they're going out and they're going outside and having fun and exploring this, and it's just absolutely incredible. I had no idea the creator of Pokemon has autism, and he does. And
Satoshi Tajiri?
Yeah, he has autism. He started Pokemon by collecting bugs, and that was his interest, and he created the concept of Pokemon. But yeah, it's really helped people to come out of their shell, and I love that Pokemon's changed it for people.
That's incredible. I had no idea that Satoshi Tajiri had autism. You don't have autism. I think it's just a spectrum that you get classified under, right?
I mean,
I don't know.
You're kind of born with it, because my brother,
you gotta like tiptoe around, like I don't want to like say something that's wrong, and like
right. I mean, but there's so many different cases. Everyone's different, so no matter what you say about mental illness, whether you have it yourself or you know someone that does, you're never going to be exactly right for every case. So there's like no really way of classifying. Right. You know what I mean? Like, it's, I know what you mean. We're always walking on eggshells.
On the spectrum is the right thing to say.
Yes.
What I was thinking is, I think you just say autistic and not that they have autism, because I don't think it's like a specific, like, degenerative disease or something. I think it's just, I may be entirely wrong.
I might be entirely wrong. I don't know.
I only know Pokemon, and even that I'm always wrong about. So,
well, we have Pokemon. We are not Pokemon. Or are we? I don't know.
That's a popular fan theory, but that's a whole nother episode. Before we move on to Dr. Okido, I'd like to talk a little bit about this new thing that's come out since we last recorded, both the podcast and me and you, Alolan forms.
Alola.
So Alola is the new region that Pokemon Sun and Moon are going to take place in.
So freaking excited.
And have you seen the new Alola forms that are out?
Oh my god. Okay. So I've seen a few. Alola forms are a slight variation in the Pokemon's appearance, and its typing. Yeah, crazy, right? Vulpix. Really freaking excited about it. Vulpix and Ninetales.
They're like blue ice,
the ice
fairy
types.
type.
Oh my god. So
Vulpix is ice and Ninetales is ice fairy.
They are so gorgeous.
Sandshrew is ice and ice steel. Exeggutor looks really stupid.
Exeggutor, I agree. Totally.
It's dragon type.
Oh my god. So bad.
Long
so
neck.
Bad.
Looks really
like,
dumb.
I get it. They're trying to make it look like more like a palm tree, but it kind of looks like somebody just got bored. Like they took like a giant ass Pokemon and just stretched an Exeggutor out, and it's just kind of stuck like that.
Supposedly, though, I haven't fact checked this, but somebody told me the old Pokedex says that Exeggutor's necks grow long in the sun.
Oh, okay. So that would make sense then.
But there's also Marowak, which is Fire Ghost, which I am
I haven't seen that one yet. No way.
It's so cool. It's got like blue flames on its bone, and it's got like tribal markings on its skull.
So excited.
And Meowth is dark type.
Really? Does Meowth look the same though?
No, slightly different. Like
really?
They all look slightly different, but still the same. Kind of like Vulpix and Sandshrew.
Because I wonder, because like I know the anime is going to address Alola. I wonder if like Team Rocket's Meowth is going to like kind of change slightly the longer he stays in Alola.
I don't think so, because like in game, it's just that Pokemon that are from Alola look like that.
Got it.
And if you want a regular Meowth, you have to trade from a different game, and your Meowth won't change when it comes to Alola. So I don't think so. I think it's more of like an evolution thing in the real sense of the word evolution. Small change.
So it doesn't work like Meowth's getting a tan.
No. Yeah. See, it's confusing to talk about this stuff because in Pokemon they call drastic change in a single organism evolution, but that should be metamorphosis.
Right.
And evolution is small change over a large period of time throughout an entire species.
Right.
But yeah, so I think it's more like that. Like because Vulpixes lived in the mountains for so long, it's weird that fire Pokemon went to a Hawaii-based region and became ice.
That's so interesting. They just completely 180'd. Let's be done something totally different.
So I'm super excited about this. I hope we get a lot more Alola forms.
Definitely.
I want an Alolan Farfetch'd. I was saying last time that I wanted a Farfetch'd Mega Evolution. I don't know if they're done with Mega Evolutions now or if they're going to keep doing those too. I hope they keep doing those too. And each gen now start doing Alolan forms. If the next region's called Uwava, then they'll do Uwavan forms. That'd be awesome.
That'd be so cool. And I'm gonna laugh if the next region is Uwava. It's just so you can be like,
so weird.
Be like, oh shit, I called that.
I want a Farfetch'd that's grass flying.
That'd be
because
cool.
It's got the leak.
That totally makes sense.
Yeah. Wouldn't it? That'd be so
and put
cool.
a little tuft of grass on his head. You know how he's got the brown hair pieces or feathers? Just make it a little tuft of grass. Parsley, there you go.
Farfetch'd is supposed to be based on people eat duck in Japan a lot, and they eat it with a leek, which
Put
is
some
the
parsley
thing
with it. There you go.
Yes,
season it up. Hey, it's a walking meal. It seasons itself.
Yeah, maybe it could even have a thing of seasoning that it throws in its opponent's eyes, makes him sneeze.
But yeah, one thing I really enjoy is that they're revisiting all their original Pokemon. They're like, you know what? This is cool. We had a lot of fun with this one, but it's been 20 years. Let's fuck it up. Let's fuck around and try something different. I know. I love it. Good for them. They can go back now and they can fix their fuck ups from the past and be like, oh, this is the new thing.
I don't even see it so much as because Vulpix was awesome. It's just definitely a new type of Vulpix, which that's awesome. Anybody you'd like to see? Because Marowak, I'm happy without a Farfetch'd because they gave me a Marowak, but I want a Farfetch'd.
Oh man, I mean, Suicune's my favorite, but
but they're not going to do it with legendaries.
I saw it's fake, but I saw the Dragonair floating around Facebook. If you guys have seen it, it's absolutely gorgeous. But we verified that it's actually fake, which makes me sad. But it was a Dragonair, and it had kind of a maroon color and an extra set of wings, and they added some scaling to it.
Like a scale wing
looked
pattern.
Absolutely beautiful. And then I was so sad to find out it wasn't real. So maybe, who knows? Maybe it will be. I
saw one of those that said Vileplume Alolan form, and it was just a picture of Bellossom.
Oh my god. And the noobs would have no idea.
I want to do one that's got, the meme, it was a good day with Ice Cube cruising down the street with Ice Cube, but he's on fire, and it says Ice Cube Alolan form.
Oh my god.
But what about you? Anybody you'd like to see?
Well, if they could make Dragonair like that, hell yeah. Squirtle, I don't know. I think it would be kind of cute to just do a little chibi Squirtle, a little round one like Meryl, but it's a Squirtle. You know what I mean?
But
it'd be so cute.
What kind of type differences? They could just shuffle everybody, make Bulbasaur, Fire, Squirtle, Grass, Charmander, Water.
That would be so cool.
Or they could do Psychic Dark Fighting.
That would be cool.
Because that's the new dynamic. A Psychic Dark Fighting. Who would be what? Psychic Charmander, Dark Squirtle fighting Bulbasaur?
Yeah. Or maybe fighting Squirtle.
Fighting Squirtle, Dark Bulbasaur.
Yeah.
This is Nathan from the future. I just wanted to pop in for a second because I thought it's so weird that those are the types we were choosing. Because as I'm editing, I'm like, oh yeah, we were talking about Psychic Dark Fighting. And the only possible typing that I could think of was Bulbasaur's Psychic, Squirtle's Dark, Charmander's Fighting. It's so fucking obvious that that's what it should be. Bulbasaur Psychic, Charmander Fighting, Squirtle Dark. Tomorrow I'll add another, hey, Nathan from the future, saying I totally changed my mind. No, probably not. That sounds like it would be really cool. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm derailing the episode. Back to the show.
Yo, Pokemon, if you're listening, these are some great concepts we got going, and the shit ain't copyrighted, so we'll just have proof that we came up with it first.
Yeah, feel free to steal our ideas, Pokemon. You don't have to give us credit. You can always steal our ideas. So long as they're Pokemon-based ideas.
For real.
I don't want to see a series about Guy Fawkes coming out by Game Freak. Okay, I'll be pissed.
So we are talking about our favorite professor today, the original Pokemon professor.
Is he our favorite? Is he your favorite?
He's my favorite.
I think he's my favorite.
He's
I like Bill. He's not a professor, but I like Bill.
Bill is a professor in a way, right?
He's a scientist, but he's not a professor.
True.
What makes you a professor?
The ability to teach others.
Working at universities or teaching others?
I think teaching others.
That's a good question. I'm actually going to
you teach
derail
me
us a
and
little
I
bit.
teach you.
And I'm going to Google professor define. No, Google. Thank you for suggesting Professor Oak before define. But
define Professor Oak.
Professor defined as a teacher of the highest rank in a college or university, or a person who affirms a faith in or allegiance to something. Oh, that means like a professor of, like you are professing something.
Got it.
Okay. So yeah, professor would be a teacher. That makes sense because professing. You're talking. You're stating things.
Don't you think we're professing right now?
We are professors.
I know, right? We're professing the knowledge of Pokemon to the best of our ability for you guys, the listeners. I feel so smart right now.
So, Professor Samuel Oak. It's Samuel Oak in the anime. I don't think it's confirmed in game canon though. Or what about even in the manga? I don't know. I don't think so.
I have no idea.
Probably not. Well, in Japanese, he's Dr. Yukinari Okido. So I don't think it wouldn't be Samuel either way in the manga. It'd be Yukinari or Okido. Yukinari might be the family name, and Okido might be the first name. That would make sense.
Now, does Okido represent something, or is it just a last name, or does it actually have like a meaning? Because if it's like a type of tree, that would make perfect sense. Because the English just named all their professors after trees after him. So
Okido means Master Oki's way. Okido, way of living, organic way to ultimate health.
So he's an organic professor.
That's what Google's saying. Let's see if Bulbapedia has anything to say on the matter. Bulbapedia says, Okido is a Japanese family name and place name, literally big tree family. Oh, it's orchid.
Oh, okay. So
interesting that it's a type of tree, but not oak.
Yes, that is interesting. I mean, like Okido sounds like oak a little bit, so I can see how the English version, like Satoshi, Ash, is kind of similar.
Kinda, yeah.
Kinda, whatever. Oh, God.
So I highly doubt that anybody listening doesn't have experience with Professor Oak, but we're gonna assume, we're not gonna jump to assumptions because a lot of people might be listening that grew up after us and never played maybe the first professor they interacted with was not Oak.
True.
Maybe they started playing in Diamond and Pearl. I don't know. So
we welcome you just the same.
He is the premier Pokemon researcher in Kanto and one of the most respected in the world. He operates from his research laboratory in Pallet Town.
He also writes some pretty sick haikus.
In the anime. He doesn't do that so much in the game. In the anime, he does, doesn't he? He's always coming up with, like, poems. Did he have a poem about Krabby?
Yes.
That came to mind for some reason. Man, my memory just remembers the most...
Drinking tea with Krabby and me. It was very, very corny.
I remember the most random, weird things from those later episodes of Pokemon. So he's a professor. He's not just a researcher and a scientist, but he's a professor, which is interesting. I think it was the banned episodes maybe, when we were talking about Ash's mom. Or no,
we talked about Ash's mom and Professor Oak in almost every episode we've done together.
Yes, and I'm sure we'll be doing it some more in this episode.
Yes, we shall.
But no, I think it was actually the fan theories episode when we were talking about Ash's dad.
Yes. Yep.
We mentioned the novelizations written by the chief writer for the original series, Takeshi Shudo. And according to his novelizations, Professor Oak used to teach at Celadon University, which would be why he was a professor. And it also makes note of his two brothers, one of whom is the mayor of Pallet Town, the other one the postmaster.
See, that's so interesting. I never knew anything about his family other than his grandson, Gary.
His grandson, Gary, and then he has in the game, it's blue.
Right.
In the manga, it's either blue or green. But then there's also Daisy Oak. You know about Gary's sister, right? Well,
yes.
Gary doesn't have a sister, but Blue did.
Right.
Or does Gary have a sister?
It wasn't brought up in the anime, but I don't know if you remember the opening season where they had the opening theme song and they had Pikachu running through the girl's legs?
Yes.
I think that was supposed to be her.
Oh,
and I think they just never, you know what I mean? I think they just threw her as like a quick character.
That
and it's
would
funny.
make sense. Maybe there was a scene in the first episode that got cut with her. And then because he leaves Pallet Town, she never came back up again.
Right, because I remember in the Electric Tale of Pikachu, those mangas, the little short ones they had, she was brought up in there.
And she was called May. So for the longest time, I called her May because she didn't have a name in the video game.
Right.
And then I think later I read the Pokemon Adventures manga. At least I hadn't read the first issue and seen her as Daisy.
I just think it's so interesting that they included her in the opening sequence, but never cut her
gotta
out.
be it.
You know what I mean?
I'm
Because the English versions, when they dub it from the Japanese version for the opening song, it's so much shorter. But it's interesting that they actually included that in there for the English version.
Well, it's a good shot, Pikachu running.
True, but it's like,
so quick that
everyone's like, who is that? You know?
Yeah, I never thought about it growing up, so I'm convinced that's what happened. They cut a scene out with Daisy.
I agree.
They did confirm that it's Daisy, though, in Fire Red and Leaf Green. You actually get to talk to her, and the fame checker says her name is Daisy.
Nice.
So it's Daisy Oak, Blue Oak, and Oak. That's the family that we know of. We don't know anything about their parents. Do you think Professor Oak raised Blue and Daisy? Or?
I definitely feel like he may have. He's very close.
I definitely feel that he may have. He maybe, most positively, might have.
Yes. It's, I drove 19 hours. What do you want from me?
I think that's the consensus, that he definitely might have. I kind of lean towards he did.
Yeah, I'd have to agree.
So his area of expertise as a professor is the relationship between Pokemon and humans. But his goal has always been to make a complete guide on all the Pokemon in the world, which led him to invent the Pokedex. That's what most people know him for.
For those of you that have not played the original games, if you watch the Pokemon Origin anime series, it's a amazing, wrap up of all the original games for all the newer Pokemon trainers out there. It's really fascinating. You get to see Red completing the Pokedex, and you kind of get that game storyline with that.
So great. So the Pokedex is another interesting point of contention in the fandom. Like, what exactly is going on with the Pokedex? I feel like when I was growing up, our first assumption was just all new Pokemon trainers, they get a Pokedex. It tells them about Pokemon, kind of like in the anime.
Right.
But when you really read the text of the game, he says, I invented this. It's still in its testing phases. I want you guys to take it out. So it was just Red and Blue that got the Pokedexes.
Right.
But then later, another professor gives it to Gold and Silver, for example. So maybe by that point, after those 3 years, Red and Blue took it out and field tested it and programmed it and put the data into it and whatnot.
Right.
Recorded all the different Pokemon that they saw. And then it became standard issue, perhaps after that. Or maybe not even standard issue. Maybe the professors were like, I like this kid. I think he's going to go far.
The wealthier children can go.
I'm going to give that bitch a Pokedex. Bitches love Pokedexes.
I mean, 300 for a Pokeball. Those bitches better be loaded. And it's funny, because, where do they even get their money from?
Pokemon battling.
No, I mean, their mom must be rich, because she gives you a shit ton to start out with. And she's like, here, take this money. And she must be a bank, too, because eventually you accrue interest the longer you leave money with her, and it, doubles.
Their economy's got to be different, though. I mean, a bike is $1 million.
True.
Well,
true,
no,
true.
it's 99,000 or something.
Well, it's all in yen, so...
No, it's not.
Really?
There's a P symbol. It's a Pokedex, like a Pokemon money symbol.
I heard it's, based on yen.
Maybe it's more comparable to yen, but it doesn't use the yen symbol. It uses their own unique symbol.
True. I'd love I just counteracted my own $300 statement.
There's not a whole lot that we know about Oak's life. We know that when he was younger, he was a serious Pokemon trainer, and he had all sorts of Pokemon. But at the beginning of Red, Blue, and Yellow, Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle are the only 3 that he has left. Which is weird. You think he would have trained a really powerful... you think he would have trained something up to a Charizard.
Now, did he verbalize they were
Yes.
all he had left?
He says, these are the only ones I have left.
That's so interesting. I mean, I knew in the anime, Pikachu was the only one that was left.
Maybe the old ones died.
Oh my god, way to go dark.
Well, dark, but also a fact of life. Things die.
There's a massive cemetery behind the fields where Ash's Pokemon play. No idea that's where their fate will be. He fattens them up and eats them.
Jesus.
See, you're going to go dark. I'm going to go darker.
Well, in both the anime and the Electric Tail Pikachu manga, he had a Charmeleon as a kid. And this is separately, like in the Electric Tail of Pikachu manga, they just threw that in as a little bit of world building. He mentioned that he had a Charmeleon, and years later in the anime, they showed him actually having a Charmeleon.
Yes, in the 4th Pokemon movie.
I feel like I saw that movie once when it was on TV, but I didn't care too much. I was probably had it on in the background while I was doing something else. But it's safe to surmise, I think, if both of them, that he might probably had a Charmeleon.
I see what you did there.
And then he probably had a Bulbasaur and a Squirtle that both grew up as well. And yeah, those 3 must have passed away, or perhaps he passed them along, or perhaps he's a liar.
Or perhaps he's a liar.
I think he's a liar.
I mean, I think a lot of things with him is inconsistent. You know, like, is it like, am I really filling this Pokedex, or do you just not feel like doing it yourself?
Yeah, how come this Pokedex is just
what have you been doing the last, like, 20... How old is he? He's got to be, like, 50 when you meet him in the game.
He used to train Pokemon,
okay, so
and then
he's
he
been
started
a professor.
researching.
Okay, so he's been researching since, like, 20, right? So what the fuck's he been doing for 30 years? Like, he hasn't been able to complete the Pokedex in 30 years?
Yeah, and when you see a Pokemon, when you catch a Pokemon...
And you complete it in, like, what? Like a month?
Yeah, and when you... Suddenly, though, when you catch them, there's something in the Pokedex about them, and it's like, wait, how do I know that suddenly? How do I suddenly know that people long ago used to believe that this Pokemon caused windstorms? How do I know that? Because I just caught it? Oh, did you already fill this out, and it's just locked?
Fucking
and
liar.
I unlock information as I catch them? Are you sending me off so you can have sex with my mom?
Honestly, though, if we were to boil down the basis of a story, pretty sure that's what's going on.
He just sends you on a big scavenger
hunt. So you can bang your mom.
Yeah.
A delusional scavenger hunt. Oh, my God.
Well, you were asking what he did when he was younger, and I think that's the big debate that we don't know about. We know that he trained Pokemon. He used to be a really good trainer, and him and Agatha of the Elite Four, the ghost-type trainer, the old lady, used to be really good friends. But once he stopped being interested in battling and switched his focus to research, Agatha regarded him as a fool gone soft, and they grew apart, as people do. But she's kind of snarky and mean about it. Like, she calls him an old fool, and...
I don't know. Maybe she had a thing for him, and he turned her down, and she got all butthurt. Who knows?
Or maybe being around ghosts has taken its toll, and she's been sapped of her happy emotion and her dreams.
Maybe
and
she's become a ghost.
Evil and bitter.
Or just another old lady. Who knows?
We know that they grew to be rivals and that they competed as rivals in the Pokemon League. So that's interesting.
I didn't know that. That's really interesting.
It's mentioned somewhere in the game. It's mentioned, I think, in Agatha's Fame Checker. Do you remember the Fame Checker in Red and Blue or Fire Red and Leaf Green?
I never played Fire Red and Leaf Green.
What?
I know.
It's only the best Pokemon game.
I need to. I didn't have the system at the time. I just had the Game Boy Advance.
That's what it's for.
Oh, shit. I could have gotten that. Well, never mind then.
Or you can play it on your original DS, but not 3DS unless they have it in the downloads.
I have the 2DS. I need to get that then. No excuse for me. Unacceptable.
We do know that at some point throughout his professional career as a researcher, a professor, and a scientist, that Professor Elm of Johto used to be Oak's assistant and then went off on his own, founded his own research laboratory, etc., etc.
Right.
Started giving kids... He's like, yep, Professor Oak, you give kids Charmander, Bulbasaur, Squirtle, that's cool. I'm going to give them a Trico... Wait, what was it? Chikorita.
It was Chikorita,
Cyndaquil, or a Totodile. And Professor Oak's like, nobody wants a Chikorita. Elm, get out of here. You're a fool.
I want Chikorita.
And he's like, you think anybody picks Bulbasaur? And he's like, you shut up about Bulbasaur. Stay thy tongue. I like Bulbasaur. Like, I don't know. I feel like maybe there's just some like this guy. He's like, no, people are going to like it. Chikorita's way cooler than Bulbasaur. Cyndaquil's way cooler than Charmander. And Oak's like, please. You think Typhlosion is cooler than Charizard?
I mean, no, Charizard's still better. There's no comparison.
Totodile's like, nobody's even mentioned me. Shut up, Totodile.
I wonder how they choose the original 3 Pokemon, though. Do they just kind of walk outside and, like, close their eyes and just kind of like, okay, this one, and that one?
I don't know. I like to think that maybe Professor Oak had an affinity for Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle.
Well, he did have the Charmeleon, so that could be definitely a factor in it.
And they were supposed to be his last 3 Pokemon. I like to think it's him. It's even if you're taking it that he gives not just the choice to Red and Blue, but to any new Pokemon trainers in Pallet or Kanto, that starter Pokemon, I still like to think that it was his affinity for it, not like a league prescribed thing or anything.
It's funny how he gives away his last 3 Pokemon, kind of like the state sought him out for Pokemon hoarding, and he's like, okay, I've got 3 left, and then he moves to Pallet, and then he starts anew and gets more Pokemon to hoard.
But I never really thought maybe it is each different professor. But do you think they're all ripping off Oak?
Oh, definitely.
Like Elm.
I think they all like studied under him, and like he created the concept. They're like, "Oh, that's such a cool idea. Let's do it with this region's Pokemon." Yeah,
I'm gonna find a trio of grass, fire, and water, and maybe at first
pawn them off on kids.
So maybe Elm, like at first, was thinking like Meryl, but he's like, "Yeah, but Meryl doesn't have I got to find something with a 3rd stage."
Yeah,
you know,
even it out. We can go on all day about this.
Yeah, it's just like a prequel. Like there needs to be an HBO live-action prequel series. You know, I would love to see if I'm going to see live-action
Pokemon History Channel,
right? But if I'm going to see a live-action Pokemon story, I would love to see just in Japan, like a total Japanese production with puppetry, CG, live-action, like detailing, like. That would be so good.
When are we getting a live-action Pokemon movie? They've done everything else but Pokemon. It's been 20 years. We've been waiting.
Oh, we are. Detective Pikachu. It just got Legendary Pictures just picked up the rights.
Oh my God, no way.
Yep.
Holy shit.
It's happening.
I thought it was just a game.
No, they're making a movie now.
Oh my God. This is... Oh, if they don't make Danny DeVito Pikachu's voice, I quit life.
Seriously.
I quit life. Goodbye, Disney. It's been fun. They didn't make Danny DeVito as Pikachu. Sorry.
Well, who else would you accept?
Oh, shit. I don't even know.
Danny DeVito would be one kinda. But, like, it could also be like he could also just be badass and smooth and...
George Clooney.
Like an old-timey, like she came in, her name was Thursday, it was a Friday. I knew she was trouble. I don't know.
Get some George Clooney in there. What hasn't he done?
George Clooney,
like, that's
yes.
the last thing on his resume before he's officially done it all.
No, George Clooney is Professor Oak. If
God.
If I ever
Please.
make a Pokemon live action,
Please.
George Clooney, and it's not a Japanese production, because I'd rather see a Japanese production, but if I'm doing an American production, Pokemon live action, George Clooney is Professor Oak.
Hell yeah. Okay, let's start a petition, people. Let's do it.
He's only getting older, too, so by the time I have the support to do this, he'll be old enough for the role. It'll be perfect.
He'll be ripe enough to be the Oak.
He's already old enough, but it'll work even better if he gets a little older.
Exactly.
All right,
a little more.
What else do we know about Oak? He co-hosts a radio show with DJ Mary called Professor Oak's Pokemon Talk. DJ Mary apparently approached him about doing the show, and he was initially hesitant, but she ended up winning him over with her energy and persistence.
So he's a podcaster.
Yes, and he's actually, word has it, he'll be hosting his own show called Professor Oak's Pokemon Seminar. I feel like, so he does the radio show with DJ Mary, and then Professor Oak's Pokemon Seminar is going to be like his podcast that he does.
For real.
And she's like, nobody listens to podcasts. It's all about live air. And he's
music.
like, no one listens to radio anymore, Mary.
So many damn commercials. See, we're commercial free.
Use code OAK to get 10% off your soda at the Celadon department store.
Tell them Oak sent you.
Think about it. You need Firestones. You need Leaf Stones. Why not buy them through the Amazon portal? Just use the code Professor Oak.
He just does all the commercials. Just an old man in the basement with a ham radio. He thinks he's podcasting, but he's just talking to nothing.
Oak, your grandson's here again. I can't be bothered with that. Grandson's like, yeah, I know. Do you remember my name this time?
Grandfather of the year, everybody. So let's get into the anime a little bit, because I've been dying to talk about it.
Yeah, and you'll probably know more, although I don't know. I may know everything, because people don't really grow and develop in Pokemon. They pretty much just stay the same in that anime, so...
Well, the only thing that's changed is some voices here and there, and their appearance in newer anime. But other than that, yeah, they're pretty much no development whatsoever. So Professor Oak made his debut in the first episode with Ash being late to getting his first Pokemon at Professor Oak's lab. So of course he's running in, and Professor Oak's like, "Really, dude?"
Yeah, he shows up late, and the Bulbasaurs, Charmanders, and Squirtles are all gone. So wait, was there only 3 of them, or was there that big a run on like new trainers?
Here's the thing. The anime does mention 4, and I think they kind of... It's kind of funny because like they kind of expected Ash to fail the way it worked out.
The anime mentions 4 in what sense?
There are 4 trainers. So
From
Pallet, right.
Oh, okay.
So when
yeah,
Ash progresses, they'll say, "Oh, you're the 4th person that's come through here," basically
really?
stating
Okay.
he's the last one. So I feel like they kind of set him up to fail in the beginning.
Okay, so then, hold on. Because the night before, Ash stayed up late watching Pokemon battles, and his mom was like, "If you're going to stay up late, watch something educational so you'll be ready for tomorrow." And she changed it to Professor Oak's like, "Tomorrow we will have Charmander, Squirtle, and Bulbasaur are available for all trainers coming. Which one will you choose?" So he knew then, Professor Oak had to know
that there were 4.
that there were that many trainers in how many trainers there were. If he only had 3 of them and they were gone, then he knew how many. There's no way he didn't know about Ash.
Oh, yeah.
So he knew then that there were less Pokemon than there were trainers that wanted them.
Oh, yeah. He totally set him up for failure. It was like survival of the fittest Pokemon
He was like,
style.
"I'm finally going to get rid of this fucking Pikachu."
First come, first serve.
Yeah, fuck one of these kids.
my
I'm
God.
sorry. Whichever one's the least... Which the early bird gets the worm, or in this case, the Pokemon.
Verbatim. But yeah, so and it's funny too because like he's just kind of milking it, like he's just kind of enjoying Ash's disappointment as he opens each Pokeball to find that they're all empty.
Seriously,
and he's just kind of sitting there like putting his fingers together like, I am enjoying his displeasure, this is great. And then
Ash's like, "Oh well, that's all 3 of them." And he's like, "Well, actually, don't you remember I had an Eevee to give away in yellow version? Check out this. Why don't you open that ball?" And Ash is like, "It's not in it, though, is it?" "Well, why don't you open it?" "And it's not in it, though. I don't even really need to open it, do I?" "Well, you never know until you got to open it." And he presses the button, and then Oak's like, it was pretty disappointing, right? I got your hopes up a little bit, right? Just a little bit. No. A little bit, though.
Ash is the type of trainer where if Professor Oak just kind of sat in a chair far away and just tied a Pokeball to a string and just kept pulling it, Ash would be the person that would just constantly try to grab it. Like that's what he did to Ash like throughout his whole childhood. "Ash, you ready to get your Pokemon now?" Like Ash like really starts his journey at 15 because it took him 5 years of Professor Oak just fucking with him. Like, "Come get the Pokemon.
Stop by tomorrow.
Too slow."
You dumb shit. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm going to bed.
Aw. So anyway, Professor Oak finally has a little bit of goodness in his heart, and he's like, "You know what? I got one left. Here you go."
No, it's
good
not
luck with
goodness
that.
in his heart. He knew
Yeah.
that he was going to be dumping that Pikachu on someone. He probably knew it was Ash.
I think he just left it up to chance. He's like, the last one is going to get stuck with this one, and it'll seem like a gift, but really it's a curse.
No, he knew it was Ash because Ash is a fuck up. He knew Ash. He was like, I'm going to give Ash Pikachu because fuck that kid. I'm so sick of him.
He just wanted him out of the house so he could bang his mom.
If he yells at me to not give up on my dreams one more time, I swear to God.
All jokes aside, I really do enjoy the anime. So yeah, Ash gets his asshole companion Pikachu. Pikachu's like,
"No, not anyways. You don't gloss over that. I'm literally going to fuck his... I'm not joking. I'm so sick of that kid. I'm going to put the hat on the Mr. Mime and make him watch."
"Oh my God.
"You see this, Ash?" His mother's like, "I'm really rethinking this now. I'm not comfortable with this." Okay.
Oh, she wanted it.
He has a thing for Ash's mom in the comics. Let's get that out of the way.
And in the anime.
I'm sorry. What I meant to say was the anime, not in the comics. I don't think it's present in any other medium, but it's very obvious.
Thanks, 4
in
kids.
this.
Thanks for implying relationships.
Okay, what else happens in the anime? I know Ash sends his Pokemon to Oak. So, like, I think, does Blue also?
Yes.
Like the excess Pokemon after 6, rather than putting them in the PC, he sends them to live with Oak at his ranch.
Yes. So Gary does the same thing because, there's a few instances where Oak will say, oh, yeah, Gary's doing this, this, and this. How are you doing? And Ash feels like shit about himself because it's Ash. And I remember one episode he sent a Krabby. Professor Oak's like, oh, hell, you check out Gary's Krabby. And Krabby's like massive. So, there's the my Krabby's bigger than your insinuation there. Whatever.
So maybe it's just the Pokemon that Gary is catching.
It's not the size of the Pokemon. It's how you use it.
Yeah, that's what your mom said. Wait, no, that's not what your mom said. Wait, hold on. Let me hang up. Video phone off.
It's funny because if you think about it, Pokemon kind of created that concept.
What?
The video phone thing.
Oh, I was like, what, fucking somebody's mother? I'm pretty sure that's been a thing since, like, at least ancient Rome. Probably since human civilization.
That's besides the point. But yeah, like, I think they, like, started, like, the whole concept of video chatting. Because now, like, do you remember watching as a kid?
Star Trek did that way before Pokemon.
Oh, okay. Well.
And Star Trek might not even have been the first.
I know, but I don't know. Anyway. It's cool. It's cool, like, looking back, like, oh, as a kid, you thought it was just such a wild concept, and now you can just click a button, and you're like, whoa, I can see the person I'm talking to. That's how we do our podcast in Florida, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Ring,
Technology,
ring, 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 ring.
Beautiful.
Phone call. And the next thing I remember happening with Professor Oak is Tracey. Like, Tracey Sketchit, the guy that drew the Pokemon who replaced Brock. He came in for a little while, and then they were like, fuck this kid, he's kind of stupid. Let's send him with Professor Oak. And then he went to be Professor Oak's assistant.
Yes, and he continues to be.
Yeah, is he still?
I believe so, yeah.
That's cool. Like, because I know in the, what do they call it, Pokemon Chronicles?
Yes.
They have
adventures with them, yep.
Yeah, adventures with him and Tracey, which I think that's kind of cool. It gives the character a little bit of world building to the anime, since everything just stays so static. It's good to see a little bit of world building.
Right, and plus he gets his own manservant, so I guess that's kind of cool. Because Tracy's like, he's like that impressionable, I'll do anything for you type of person, and Professor Oak's like, all right.
How do you feel about wearing this hat? And are you busy this Saturday evening? Hey, is that Ash's hat? Maybe.
The secrets to Pokemon we
Mr.
dare not
Mime,
dig up.
You've been replaced. Mime. Mime. Just begging.
I like how your mime sounded Italian.
Mime. Mr. Mime should not speak. Jesus.
Yeah, it does defeat the purpose.
So what else happens does anything else happen with Professor Oak from...
Well, I can sum up the entire X amount of seasons of Pokemon with Professor Oak in about 3 sentences. So, because, no character development. Ash catches a bunch of Pokemon. Professor Oak loves the Pokemon. Professor Oak gives Ash lots of advice. Professor Oak travels with Ash to many locations and then briefly drops him off after shortly being there.
Is he a traveling companion for a while?
Nah, he just kind of drops Ash off at
every once
places.
in a while.
He's just like, he gets on a plane with him for a few ones. He's like, okay, enjoy this new region. Okay, bye.
Bye.
He enjoys pineapples on his pizza. That's true. That's right, guys. Professor Oak likes pineapples on his pizza, and I do too. Apparently that's like a thing right now. It's like a big debate.
Pineapples did not go on pizza.
Pineapples do go on pizza.
Bacteria cultured in cow milk does not go on pizza. I don't eat cheese on my pizza, so I'm over here like, weird. Everybody's fucking weird. Do you think pineapples are weird on pizza? Well,
pineapples are the most natural thing about
cheese
pizza.
Is fucking... we culture bacteria in the milk from in the juice that we squeeze out of another mammal's boobs, and then we culture bacteria in it, and then we separate that bacteria and we like squeeze it into like square shapes or thin slices, and then you melt that. You expose it to heat so it melts and gets all gooey, and you put it on a pizza.
Sounds good to me.
I'm not saying that's why I don't eat it, because I'm sure half the shit I eat is weird too. I drink beer sometimes, and beer's fucking the bacteria shit in your fucking wheat water and or something. And
tastes like piss.
I don't know. It's been a long time since I did the beer podcast, but you're literally drinking bacteria shit. So,
I mean, we're technically drinking dinosaur spit too in
weird.
water.
Okay, if people want to put a slice of a fruit that they pick off a tree on their dough and mashed up tomatoes and melted bacteria from cow milk, that's okay. Let them put some fruit on there. That's the least weird thing about that.
Yes, so to end this argument, pineapples do go on pizza.
Professor Oak said so.
Yes.
He's the worldwide authority.
On pizza and Pokemon. Pokemon's the secondary.
So what about the movie with Celebi, Pokemon
Okay.
Forever?
Here we go. So, Ash meets a kid named Sammy, and Sammy traveled through time.
Yeah, he was good friends with Celebi, right?
Yes. So he met Celebi. Celebi was being chased by a Pokemon hunter.
Back in time.
Back in time, right. So Celebi, trying to protect itself, created Time Ripple. So Sammy was in the line of fire. So Sammy got transported forward in time. He meets Ash, because, everyone meets Ash in the movies. And, it just seems to be how it goes. Ash and him become friends. And he enjoyed drawing Pokemon in the movie. Sammy did, not Ash. Ash isn't skilled whatsoever.
And Ash was like, oh, you like drawing Pokemon? I think that's kind of stupid. I think you should capture and train Pokemon. We knew this one dumbass that liked drawing Pokemon too, but we kicked him out of our group and made him go stay with that old asshole, Professor Oak, because he's a fucking loser.
What did you say your last name was again?
And Sam's like, I'm going to remember this face. And then years later, he was like, oh, I know who I'm giving that Pikachu to. Yup.
Well, see, maybe that's why he gave Ash the Pikachu, because he met him in the past, and he's like, oh, he had a Pikachu. I guess I should make it work out. Huh. Interesting. So, yeah, Ash and him become friends, and they have all the magical adventures, and I think Celebi dies at one point.
Celebi dies,
Yeah.
and then does Ash cry,
Pollution.
and it comes back to life, and Oak's like, your tears resurrect people? And Ash is like, no, it's the power of love, right? That happens for everyone, right? When you cry, it brings back the dead, and Oak's like, no.
I think one of the most disturbing things I've seen was in that movie when Ash was, like, trying to feed it when it was, like, decrepit and, like, deceased in his hands. Like, he was trying to, like, give it berries. Like, no, you're not dead.
Still,
Just
Ash,
bawling.
please stop.
Ash, you're...
Oh God, that's horrifying. Just the image of a child shoving food into their dead pet's mouth. Like, wake up, you're alive.
I shit you not, that's exactly what it was.
Oh my God, that's horrifying.
Yeah, so, Japan likes to fuck with our emotions because that's their style. Bless them, they are wonderful people, but they like to fuck with us. They find out afterward that Professor Oak, he sketched Pikachu, and of course Ash, he doesn't figure anything out ever, so he had no idea that it is Professor Oak, but the viewers know. So by the end of the movie, we discover that it's actually Professor Oak who Sammy is, Samuel Oak, and Ash and his friends, obviously, it was implied and they didn't really get it, but... Yeah.
Ash's friends got it.
Yeah, it was like one of those things where he was talking to Professor Oak, like after Sammy goes back in time, and Ash is like really sad.
It's too bad I'll never see Sam again. And Misty's like, well, I don't know, Ash. You just might. And he's like, why? Do you think he's going to travel back through time? Well, no, but didn't you notice anything familiar about him?
Ash is so dense. It's okay. But yeah, Professor Oak was like, yeah, maybe Sammy, we'll see you again sometime. And they're like, wait, we never mentioned his name. That was kind of weird that he knew his name.
Oh, so that is what happened.
Yeah.
It was Oak that makes me, I don't know, Ash, maybe you will see Sam again.
Yeah, he's
what do you mean, Professor Oak? That the kid's going to travel back in time? Well, no, but, don't you think there's something familiar about Sam? And he was like, and then Misty's like, don't you wonder how Oak knows his name is Sam, Ash?
They're like nudging him, and he's like, I don't get it. And they're like, well,
are you a psychic Pokemon? Pulls out Dexter. Identifying Sam Oak.
Oh my God. He still won't get it. It's fine. It's okay.
Hint, Ash.
But in the movie, they have Sammy sketching a picture of Pikachu and Celebi sleeping next to each other, and after
oh yeah, that's the Oak I know.
Yeah, afterward Professor Oak pulls out
Mr. Mime in the background watching.
Oh my God. We're never gonna live this down.
I'm gonna post this on my DeviantArt. Mature content. Tag hentai.
Oh my God. But yeah, he pulls out the same sketch out of his lab, and everyone in the audience is like, oh my God. So yes, they've met before, according to the anime.
So in the manga, there's many different mangas, as we've mentioned, and the main two that I think are worth looking at is Adventures, which we keep reiterating this in every episode, but I think it's important because there's so many different mangas. Pokemon Adventures, also known as Pocket Monsters Special, that's what it's called in Japan. It's called Pokemon Adventures in America. That's the story of Red, green, blue.
Purple.
It goes through, well, no, but red, green, and blue, the trainers from Pallet.
Right.
And then it goes to gold and silver.
The
and
fourth
then it goes
one is
to,
purple.
There's a
He's
saga.
not mentioned much.
So wait, now you're making me, before I continue, wonder, do we ever see the other trainers from Pallet aside from Gary in the anime?
I don't believe so. They seem to be just vaguely brought up in the beginning just to kind of like let the audience know, hey, Ash is falling behind. Like, they're just, like, kind of showing a comparison of how slow Ash is going to the rest of the group. And is also explaining where the other 3 Pokemon went. But other than that, they're really not mentioned at all.
So, in Pokemon Adventures, the main, still-going Pokemon manga, which is the most faithful to the video games, aside from Origins, the anime that you mentioned.
Make more, please.
Professor Oak, he doesn't even give Red his Pokemon. Well, he kind of does. Well, Red already has a Poliwhirl at the beginning of the series.
Interesting.
Yes, and he's getting ready to go on his Pokemon journey, but he already has a Pokemon. And then, I don't remember, he goes looking for Professor Oak, and he, like, opens the door to his lab, and he's like, Professor Oak, and he, like, walks in, and he's looking around, and he's like, hello. And then he sees, like, a Bulbasaur loose, so he starts chasing it, and Professor Oak stops him or something. I don't remember exactly. It's been a long time since I've read it. But Professor Oak is like, thief! And he starts... And Red's like, no, I'm not a thief. And he's like, yeah, right, you fucking thief. And he pulls out his shotgun and starts shooting at him. He doesn't have a shotgun. But for the sake of joke, he starts shooting at him. And Red starts trying to dodge the bullets and accidentally knocks all the Pokeballs over. Aww. So all the Pokemon are released and they all escape. And Ash... Or not Ash, I'm sorry, Red.
Well, that was an Ash move, so I don't blame you for making that mistake there.
Red has to help Oak track down and capture all the Pokemon that he let loose. So together they hunt them down, and by the end, Oak realizes he likes Red, and he lets him keep Bulbasaur.
So is that like just one comic, or is that like the entire series? It's just them trying to track down Oak's Pokemon.
No.
How many did he have?
I think that's just the first issue, maybe the first 2.
Gotcha.
Later, though, during the Pokemon League tournament, Professor Oak competes in disguise as Dr. O, and then eventually reveals himself as Professor Oak, the former champion. And he says he used to be champion. Dr.
O, that just sounds so dirty. That sounds like someone you'd see selling sex toys on TV. This new vibrator from Dr. O.
Orgasmo! Or it could be like
a wrestler.
A romantic advice columnist.
Oh my God. He writes haikus about doing Ash's mom.
Well, see, your problem, lovelorn Inalola, is very similar to a problem I had with Ash's mom once. As you may know, I fuck Ash's mom. I thought this was Oak's research hour. What was his podcast called?
I don't even fucking know.
And
it's not as cool as ours, obviously, because we don't even know what the name of it is.
Yeah, we just have an impossible to Google podcast title. Silph Radio, a Pokemon podcast. I have to spell it out for people. Bad move on my part. It should have just been called Pokemon-centered discussion or something.
Hey, Silph Radio is a very unique title. I like it.
Yeah, I've turned it into he's turned his podcast into a romantic advice column, Dr. O.
Yes, that is his.
You have to play with her love disc.
And if those of you who don't know that's a Pokemon, you just missed a wonderful joke opportunity. Oh my God.
In the Electric Tail of Pikachu.
Gotta puff her jigglies.
Moving on, yeah. And jiggle her puffs too while you're at it.
I'm not gonna contribute to that. We can go all day. I was gonna say Squirtle something, but nah. That's too much. It's taking it too far.
I'd like to give her a Squirtle.
I really hope there's no kids listening to this right now. If you are, you should have stopped listening like an hour ago or however long this is.
If you are, you should know that it's just jokes and that sex is it's something that you approach with respect and tact. And you joke about it when you're, it's okay to joke about it.
I bet all kids think that babies come from eggs from the Pokemon world.
What egg group do I belong to? So, in the Electric Tail of Pikachu, manga, Ash doesn't get his Pokemon from... He doesn't get any Pokemon from Professor Oak. And yes, this is Ash. This manga is actually very closely based on the TV show, but there are areas in which it differs greatly. And I love it. I think it's so
there's
cool.
actual character development, and Ash isn't a complete loser?
Kinda. Maybe not character development, but it's really cool. I think you would love it.
All right.
You would love it. I'm going to let you look at a few issues before you leave.
Cool beans.
And in this manga, Ash doesn't even meet Professor Oak until he gets to Mount Moon, which is weird. 'Cause he doesn't meet him in Pallet Town. He's not even mentioned. He gets his Pikachu because his Pikachu is gnawing at the wires in his house.
Wasn't that the same for the Electric Tail Pikachu? That's how he...
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the other one. Anyway.
No, actually, though, in the other one, in Pokemon Adventures, Red gets his Pikachu. It's causing trouble at Viridian City. I think it keeps causing power outages.
Got it. Okay.
And he catches it.
I was confusing the stories. Anyway.
But no, in Electric Tail of Pikachu, the one based on the anime, he gets his Pikachu because it's in his walls chewing up wires, and his mom's like, get rid of the thing. You're the man of the house. And he doesn't
Not much of a man, is he?
He doesn't meet Oak until he gets to Mount Moon. And Oak is camping out in Mount Moon studying the Clefairy. And then Bill shows up, and he's like, oh, Bill, you finally showed up. Like, him and Bill were meeting at Mount Moon to, like, camp out and watch the Clefairy to witness their super rare ritual where they all evolve into
So
Clefable.
they say.
No,
Maybe him and Bill just wanted a private weekend alone in Mount Moon.
We're out here studying Clefairy. And Bill's like, ooh, you brought a young one. He's like, no, this is Ash, the Pokemon trainer. He's happy to see that we're studying Clefairy out here, Bill.
Ash has no idea.
What's this thing that says Dr. O on it? Oh, stay out of that. That's the Clefairy evolving device.
Oh, goodness.
Ash, what are you doing to that Clefairy? No! Very fair. Okay, this is the worst episode of Silph Radio ever. We apologize.
See, this is what happens when you get me in a room. It's not...
Phil, you're welcome for making your comments about the handicapped Bulbasaur less offensive.
To my defense, though, you're the one that's starting it. You're saying worse things than I am, so it's all you.
I'm pretty sure you started it when you said, if I'm going to go dark, you're going to go darker.
Okay, yes, I take that back. Okay. I'm not a good influence. I'm sorry. Yet I work with children every day.
But no, on the real, though, isn't that really cool? Like, doesn't that kind of sound like... Maybe it does. It doesn't sound that far off from a plot in the anime. No, it does, because in the anime, you just see some researcher that you only see once researching the Clefairies.
True.
In this, Ash sees Professor Oak, and he's meeting Bill, two characters that were established in the game. And, like, it's really cool. And the art style is so much more beautiful than the anime.
Oh,
like,
definitely.
So much more detailed.
However, the anime has really upped their ante on the animation styles. It looks amazing now. It really does. If you watch the X, Y, and Z series, it's absolutely incredible. Like, I'm definitely starting to classify Pokemon as an actual anime because I have that respect because the art style is so much better. Like, the characters no longer have, like, the deformed... for a while, they were drawing them, like, half-assed. Like, their necks were, like, totally not proportionate to their bodies at all.
Kids will watch it. Who cares?
Yeah, like, they just gave up. But now they're actually putting effort into it, and it shows.
Yeah.
So I give them props for that.
All right. So does Professor Oak have any Pokemon? Let's look at that.
I mean, he's got to have. He's been doing shit for 30 years. If he doesn't have one by then, he has no right to give Ash shit.
We already mentioned that in the game, he says Bulbasaur, Charmander, and Squirtle were his last three.
Right.
Now, in Red, Blue, and Yellow, there is unused trainer data hiding in the game for Professor Oak, implying that at one point the player character was to battle Professor Oak. And you can glitch in this battle where Professor Oak will slide out as a trainer, holding his book, and then it's like Professor Oak wants to battle. And he sends out his Pokemon. He has a whole team. There's 3 different teams programmed. And it makes total sense because the only difference on each team is which starter Pokemon he has. So it's safe to assume he would have whichever one was left over that you and Blue didn't take.
Exactly.
So if you took Charmander, he would have Bulbasaur. If you took Squirtle, he would have Charmander. Whichever one that was weak to your player, because Blue would have picked the stronger one.
But you'd think as a professor, he would know better. Maybe he's just trying to...
He has a whole other team, too, though. He also has a Tauros, an Exeggutor, an Arcanine, and a Gyarados.
Well, that's fucking cool.
Right? And he's one of the strongest trainers. He's stronger than the Elite Four. So I think it's safe to say that Oak was originally intended to be the champion.
That would have been really cool.
Or at least the former champion. We know in the manga he was a former champion. We know that him and Agatha used to be friends. Everything that he and Agatha... Like, there's a lot of foreshadowing in the game that's still in there. You read an email on his computer, and it says, we're issuing a challenge to, like, all the Pokemon trainers. Professor Oak, can you please come visit us up at Indigo Plateau? Like, can you come ASAP? We would like to, we need, something. They're requesting him to come up to Indigo. So it could be that they're like, we're having a challenge. We're going to need you to be present because you're the champion.
That would be really cool.
And it's very possible. The two going theories are either that A, Blue already beat him and became the champion before you, or B, Blue was still waiting and you guys battled and he lied and said he was the champion or something and you guys just battle and then Professor Oak comes in.
Yeah.
Because also the guy says only champions can go past this point and Professor Oak goes in.
Oh, shit.
And Agatha's always saying she seems bitter. So and we know that they had competed in Pokemon League.
She lost
So if
to
she was
him.
bitter, she may have been the champion and then lost to Oak.
You're onto something right there. I mean, wouldn't it be cool if that's how they ended the anime?
If I make a movie, that's how it's going to end. Or a movie, I would rather
Facing
do a trilogy.
Professor Oak?
Yes, Professor Oak would. It's absolutely going to. George Clooney comes out.
Yes.
And he's
Yes.
either he is the champion. I think I'd make it that he is the champion. And yeah, I'd fake you out. And Blue would act like he was the champion. And then Professor Oak would come out like right before Red beats Blue. Professor Oak comes out, or right before either of them. Like neither of them wins. And Professor Oak's like, "What are you guys doing?" And they're like, "What do you mean? I'm fighting. He's the champion. I'm going to beat him." And Oak's like, "He's not the champion."
Smacks him upside the head. Gary, you dumbass.
What the fuck are you doing, Blue? I am the champion. I'm trying to do like a George Clooney. I can't do a George. No one can do a George Clooney.
Except for George
I'm not
Clooney
nearly
himself.
sexy enough to do a George Clooney. So
I don't think anyone is.
that's how I would end the movie.
I'd
And
be okay
people
with
wouldn't
that.
see that coming after 3 movies, but I think they would
And
accept
then he'd
it.
pull the I am your father shit.
I think they'd accept it, and no one would see it coming unless they listened to Silph Radio.
Yeah, see? There's
Or
more reason to listen, folks.
Maybe
right
they
there.
would. But I think, yeah, and a lot of fans know that, so a lot of fans might like it and be like, I like that. Some people might get butthurt and be like, that's not the way it ends in the game. But I think I'd do it. I think people would be down for it.
Well, the games continue, so anything can happen.
So those are the Pokemon that Professor Oak has in the game. You can glitch the battle. Do you know who he has in the anime?
See, he doesn't really bring up his own Pokemon very often. We just see the ones that he has for other trainers, like Ash's Pokemon.
And he runs a whole ranch.
Oh,
and the
yeah.
ranch has hundreds of Pokemon on
Ash's
it.
30 Tauros.
Yeah.
Charizard's there now.
So there's all the... Oh, Charizard's there?
Yep, Charizard moved from Charpacific Valley, and he's now at Professor Oak's lab.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And
They better do a Mega Evolution with Ash's Charizard, because that would be fucking cool.
besides those, though, he has a Dragonite that he uses in one of the movies, right?
It's, it was really disappointing because it was Mastermind of Mirage Pokemon. It was the horrible decision that 4Kids made to replace the voice actors, and that was the original test run for the new voice
really?
actors. So that made it absolutely horrible. The voices were absolutely just hideous. This story was kind of, but it was supposed to be cool. Like, I'm sure the Japanese version was great because it brought back Misty when Ash was with May and Max in the newer.
Okay.
It brought in Professor Oak. So it was kind of like a little...
He had a fucking Dragonite like a boss.
Yeah, for real. It was like a little reunion of the anime characters. And so they were battling like Mirage Pokemon. This Dr. Young, he created like a Mirage system, like holograms, but they felt realistic. And they are supposed to like be like Pokemon, but the guy turned out to be evil, of course. So Professor Oak battles him with his Dragonite and loses. But hey, he's got a fucking Dragonite, so that's pretty cool.
And from what I can gather, we also see him catch a Pidgey, and we see him catch a Rotom.
Yes.
I think Pidgey was the first thing we saw, was that he caught a Pidgey.
Yes.
In the Pokemon Adventures manga, that's the main manga series, Pocket Monster Special, he has a Pidgeot, a Fearow, a Dodrio, a Kangaskhan, a Stantler, and a Leddyba. And then if you count all the Pokemon that Red released from his lab, like when he thought he was a thief and he accidentally knocked all the Pokeballs over, then he's got like a bunch of Pidgeys, Rattatas, Meowth, Weedles, Kakunas, Caterpies, all sorts of shit.
Are those really worth chasing after if you think about it in the grand
Right.
scheme of things?
Right.
Like, they wasted how much time gathering those?
He had a couple. He had a Meowth. Meowth. A lot of the other ones, though, you can find just by taking a stroll out of Pallet Town for 10 minutes.
Exactly. I mean, Pokemon Go, those shits are everywhere.
Yes, I'm trying to level one of them up. That's why I've caught so many. I need that candy. I need to send him to Professor Birch. That's his name, right? Or is Birch from one of the games?
It was Professor Willow.
Willow. Professor Willow.
Another tree.
I can't be bothered to remember anybody's names. What's my grandson's name? I don't fucking know.
I don't even know what gender you are.
Well, I've learned that you're not supposed to ask. It really doesn't matter.
Just be you. Can you imagine if that was an option? Boy,
what
girl.
What group are you?
See, those are the real questions right there. I mean, if a Skitty and a Wailord can get it on, who knows?
Now, it's not a coincidence that he has a lot of birds, because he was based on John James Audubon.
Really?
It seems very, very clear. Do you know about the Audubon Foundation?
Not really.
Okay. You may even be familiar with the books or some of James John Audubon's paintings. Now, James John Audubon didn't found the Audubon Foundation. It was just named in his honor.
Right.
But basically, he was this French kid that came to America. His parents immigrated when he was very young. He wanted to categorize all the different types of birds of America.
Really?
Yes, and in 1820, he took a boat across the country, went on a journey. He brought this 13-year-old named Joseph Mason with him, and the 13-year-old was really good at drawing trees, and John James Audubon liked to paint birds. So he would he would actually shoot the birds and then pose them on a grid, and then he would paint them, and then the kid would draw the backgrounds, the trees and leaves and stuff.
Interesting.
And sometimes he would actually find a branch and be like, use this branch, draw it, and have it perched on that branch.
A lot of the original art, I know that's from a photography perspective, is with death. A lot of the photographs you see from back then with the daguerreotypes, those were actually corpses. Because that's you had to get them to stay still for long enough, so they would take photos of them after they've already died.
But his were revolutionary because other people would just have these birds like just very still, wings on their sides, perched on a branch. He would draw the birds in flight because he would pin them to a board and like he would put wires in them to like hold them still.
That's so
pretty
cool.
Fucked up and morbid,
hey, whatever works.
The sensibilities back then. It's interesting because the Audubon Foundation is a conservationist group, and they would definitely not approve of that nowadays.
That's so funny how that worked out.
Right. But things have evolved. I feel like maybe if he was born nowadays, he might not want to shoot them because he would understand contemporary ideas about conservation.
Or he could just take a picture.
Right. Well, he liked to paint. And that's interesting,
pull out his
iPhone. Paint me like your French girls, John. Oh, no, don't kill me. Don't pin me to the board. But he painted all those birds. He painted like 450-something birds. He discovered like 20 species and wrote this book, The Birds of America. He would also take research notes. He would research them. Pioneered like our understanding of like birds and like fowl like lifestyles. And it's really interesting how this ties to, he took a journey to categorize them all, make this book, paint them like filling out a Pokedex. He brought a little kid with him, and the little kid liked to draw. And that kind of ties to Tracey.
Oh, my God. Yes, it does.
The fact that Tracey wants to draw all the Pokemon has to be because the fact that James John Audubon wanted to paint all the birds of America. And he painted like 450-something birds or something. I don't remember the number.
That's so cool.
And he liked to embellish about his own life a lot. Not so much his art. Not so much about birds. Like his research was pretty top-notch for its time at least. And his art was more like anatomically correct and like forward thinking than any other biological art of the time, which
like you
was
said, it was revolutionary.
Yeah, he would paint them in life. Like other scientific paintings would just be static, standing still, like nothing in action.
Right.
But it was kind of criticized for being overly dramatic, like birds beefing with each other and fighting snakes in trees that didn't even climb trees, like, a little like hyped up, and that led to some little inaccuracies. So it's kind of criticized for that, which reminds me of the Pokedex and how it has such gross inaccuracies. Maybe it wasn't the kids over exaggerating. Maybe it was Oak. Maybe Blue and Red were like, yeah, Pikachu's about a foot tall, and he was like 3 feet. No, I said a foot. Blastoise has some pretty powerful water coming out, and he's like, 18 million kilotons. And they're like, that's not even a thing. I don't know what you're like.
It's true. If you actually look through the Pokedex, like, I don't know if they've ever fixed it or if they're just like, fuck it, what's done is done. We can't fix what Oak has already done. Like, he's fucked it up so bad, there's no going back now.
The kids are feeding him realistic, rational
Or he's
info.
asking 5-year-olds.
Well, that's been my theory. That's been the running theory on the podcast so far, is that it's inaccurate because Oak sent kids out to do it. But now I'm thinking it's inaccurate because Oak is old and incompetent.
I can just imagine him asking, like, a young Ash,
not
Ash,
old
how
and
much do you
incompetent.
think this weighs?
I'm
Purple.
sorry. He's an embellisher. He's like, it's so strong. It was this big. Look at Blue's Krabby. Really, he was just doing the old Peter Jackson, like, Hobbit trick, and the Krabby was just really far away.
And Ash couldn't tell the difference. He's like, what?
But when Tracey was traveling with them, he's like, actually, Ash, it looks like a matter of perspective.
Forced perspective. That's where it's at.
So yeah, gotta catch them all. That's where it comes from. James John Audubon.
That's so cool.
Before we dip out, I think one aspect that we can't not mention that never really got much attention.
That Professor Oak is doing Ash's mom.
No, we talked about that at length. I just thought we'd mention it again. It can't not be mentioned again. That he is definitely, most definitely, maybe, no, just definitely fucking Ash's mom. Imposter Professor Oak. Do you remember did you ever play the card game?
I haven't played the game, but I think I've seen the card.
There is a Pokemon card for Imposter Professor Oak, and it's this evil-looking Professor Oak with, like, spiky hair and, like, evil eyebrows, and he's got a Gengar and a Grimer. No, a Gengar and a Coughing. And there's another card where he has this weird, like, Inspector Gadget backpack.
Are you sure it's not hungover and on drugs, Professor Oak?
It's just the regular Professor Oak. This is
my evil
excuse
twin.
to do bad things. No, it was just my evil twin, Ash. It's my evil twin that had sex with your mom. Imposter Professor Oak. I guess he does appear in the How I Became a Pokemon Card manga, which I haven't been able to read a lot of, so I've never seen how.
I've never heard of that before.
It's like a manga that explains... It's really cool. It'll explain the backstory behind an illustration on a Pokemon card, but in such a cute little way that it's like... It's just a story of a Rattata in the day in the life of a Rattata. Like, running around, a Pidgey tries to attack it, and it runs away, and it... I don't know. Just little, like, stories. Like, it's really cool. But in the Pokemon Adventures manga, Sabrina actually has her Kadabra use, like, a psychic disguise to make itself look like Imposter Professor Oak.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, Sabrina would do that. She likes to fuck with people.
Yeah,
I don't blame her.
And she's a member of Team Rocket in the manga, so...
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
Okay, that's really cool.
You know what else is really cool?
Silph Radio on Facebook.
Yeah. Cha. Please.
For real.
Get on your PC, hang up your video chat with Ash's mom.
Ring, 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 ring.
And go on Facebook and look us up and like the page. It helps us out a lot. We need to get those likes up. We know a lot of you are listening, but we haven't even broke 200 likes on Facebook yet.
I drove all the way from Florida for this. You better like us.
Please like the page. It helps a lot. And Facebook doesn't even show you our posts because it doesn't show people your posts. So, no, I'm just kidding. But it helps a lot, and it won't even bother you. You'll barely see it in your news feed. But all we do is post really cool art on the Facebook with, like, a link to our podcast. So, and, updates about upcoming episodes, new episodes, so you stay in the loop. And again, free way to support us. If you're listening on iTunes or, like, Stitcher or somewhere that there are reviews and ratings, Podbay, please... I cannot stress this enough. This helps more than the Facebook page. Give us a rating. Give us a review.
Let us know how we're doing.
It warms our hearts, and it lets iTunes know, hey, people want to, when they search for Pokemon Podcast, maybe show them Silph Radio first. So that's a big help, and we do other shows. So if you like Silph Radio, I know you've been thinking about it. You hear us say it every day. Go check out Fairpoint Podcast. It's a really cool show. I put a lot of work into it. You've heard Craig on the podcast before. Me and Craig, every episode. It's really funny. It's really informative. It's both funnier and more informative because we don't just talk about Pokemon. The palette's so much bigger, and you guys are bound to love it.
The palette is so much bigger.
There you go.
Doo-doo-ch.
Pallet Town's pretty small, so you'll love it.
Listen, laugh, and learn. I recommend episode 99. You get to hear me in a southern accent as Amelia Earhart. It's a lot of fun.
I do recommend that one for people who have listened to the podcast before. You'll get most of the jokes. But So maybe listen to a few other ones and build up to it, but maybe just jump right in. I don't know. Maybe I'm downplaying my own talent as a writer and director and editor.
It's an out-of-this-world adventure.
It's a whole radio play. Normally Fairpoint is like this, discussion-based, but sometimes we do skits. And for our 100th episode, which was episode 99, because we did an episode 0, we did a whole radio play. You've probably already heard this spiel on Silph before, but Briana's in it. So is every other Silph host, except for Antoine, because it was before he joined the crew.
Well, maybe he'll be in the 200th.
Except for John. John wasn't in it. That was an oversight on our parts. Yeah, maybe the 200th. But thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to this spiel at the end. We appreciate it. Keep listening. We've got new episodes coming soon. We're trying to keep them more regular. Till next time, enjoy your week. I'm Nathan K.
And I'm Briana Joy.
I guess I already said enjoy your week. I don't know. Take it easy, guys.
Bye.